Let's see if this works. It's been quite a while. Oh, it has. I need to set this to public. Done. Excellent. And I need to change the thumbnail to... I need something. I need something to change that thumbnail to. Why not that? For now. Let's see what we've got. Let's have something decent. This is a completely off the cuff stream, so I am kind of doing this on the fly. What's a funny thumbnail to use? I don't really have much in the way of a funny thumbnail. I'll just leave it at that for now. We'll leave it as that for now. And just see if this actually shows up as being live. It is. Excellent. Okay, so people should be able to see this. Yeah, this has obviously been a while since I've done a stream. I don't know if you can hear my fan at the moment. I've got a fan sort of on, pointed away from the mic as much as possible, but still on. So if you can hear it, in fact, let me just check. I can... No, that's all good. That's all very good. We'll just wait for people to pop in and say hello. Because to be fair, it has been a while, so I don't expect many people to be here straight away. But it is Saturday night as well, so I don't know how many people are actually going to be around. But we'll see how things go. I just thought we'd have a chat. I thought we'd have a catch-up. I thought we'd do something, because Star Wars is boring right now. There's nothing happening. For the first time in like 5 years, there's nothing to talk about. There's no shows coming out. We've still got like a year until the next movie. There's no rumours. There's not even in-fandom drama for us to like talk about. It is all just non-existent and boring. And there's not much that we can really do about it other than just talk and say hello and make videos and just enjoy the time that we have. So if anyone is there, feel free to say hello. I am going to have a look at a few things. But yes, we will have a good old natter for those who have nothing better to do on a Saturday night than to hang out with a stranger on the internet in a funky top. This is my new funky Tramier top. It's it reminds me of the 90s. It reminds me of Saved by the Bell. I don't know why. But it is very nostalgic to me. Very unusual for a piece of sports kit. And yes, I am drinking Estrella Damm. Estrella Damm. Made a mistake of having a drink after the football, and that kind of just leads from one to the next to the next. And then before you know it, you're live streaming in front of some people and still drinking. Which, again, wasn't planned. But isn't that the beauty of this channel, is that, like, you never know what's going to happen. Any time I could go live. Any time whatsoever. More often than not, I don't, but, you know, it could happen. Okay, let's close a few things down here. I've just gotten off of playing Marvel Rivals with some friends, which is a game I don't particularly love, but I do enjoy playing it with friends. I wouldn't play it on my own, because, yeah, it's just not really my kind of game. In fact, there's not many games I'm playing at the moment. I'm still, even with, like, I bought the new Doom. I say the new Doom game. It was released in May. But I bought Doom the Dark Ages, and, you know, I kind of have been struggling to get into that. I love Doom as well. I'm just not really into the whole video game thing at the moment. Although I am planning on doing a video about a video game in the near future. I'm hoping to put together a video about one of my favourite Star Wars games from the past, which I will let people have a guess at, because there's a few games from many, many years ago that, you know, people could speculate. But there is one that stands out as my favourite, not particularly because it's the best, but because it's got the most emotional ties to my childhood. And it's like it was my first gateway into Star Wars outside of, like, little figures and the films. So feel free to have a guess at what my favourite Star Wars game of all time is, that I'm hoping to make a video of in the near future. And, you know, it's not a recent game. It's obviously not going to be Battlefront 2. Not that that's a bad game. It's not going to be anything like Outlaws. Hey, Roman, how are you doing? What's up is... we're just hanging out. We're just chilling. I just thought I would turn the stream on. It's been a while since I have... you know, kind of gone live. I thought I would just kind of sit down and say hello. Nothing really else to do on a Saturday, which really should. It's been very busy the last few months, and now things are kind of slowing down just a little bit. And I've kind of got a little bit of time. Maybe it's a commentary on the state of my social life. You know, that Sunday, almost 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, I'm here streaming, drinking Estrella Damm. But, you know, these are on sale in the local shop, so why not? And I thought, you know, I would just kind of sit down and talk about the fact that there's nothing to talk about when it comes to Star Wars at the moment. As I was saying, there's no shows, there's no movies, there's no drama. Been watching since the Star Wars Rebels days, just never commented. So are you talking from my old channel, the My Name is Simon channel, which is awesome if that's the case, because Rebels was pretty early on. Rebels was probably around about 2017, I think. Late 2016, early 2017, which is quite a while. So, again, thank you for sticking around for so long. It's been, God, 8-9 years. I know it's not always been easy. It's not always been steady. That channel. Yeah, 2016. Damn, that's a long time. A lot has changed since then, Roman. A lot has changed. It would have been definitely 2016. I literally started the channel in late, December 2015. I didn't really start watching Star Wars content until 2016. But yeah, man, you've been around for a while, so I appreciate that. I really do. It's kind of crazy. Like I say, that 9 years ago, it feels like an age. Like, I've gone through, and I'm sure everyone has in the last 9 years, so many different, so many changes. It's kind of crazy, and I'm sure that looking back on that time, where I was in my old bedroom in my parents' house, with no idea of how to light my room, a basic webcam and basic microphone, just kind of stumbling my way through videos. Twilight of the Apprentice, yeah, that would have literally been because I only started reacting to Rebels I'm trying to think. It was as the second half of season 2 was coming out is when I started, because I think at that point I just finished Clone Wars. Hey Wedge, how you doing? So basically the timeline for me started December 2015. Started the channel, didn't know what I wanted to do. The first Star Wars video that I ever reacted to was the season 2 part 2 trailer, and then people got me into the Clone Wars because I'd never seen the Clone Wars. I just hadn't really give it much thought. So over the space of the next 3 months, every day I watched an episode of the Clone Wars, and that got me through those 6 seasons. At the time it was 6 seasons, obviously, and then I moved straight on to Rebels. Probably would have been around about April 2016 when I started season 1 of Rebels, and at that point obviously there was only 2 seasons, and from there, as they say, the rest is history. But that was the golden year, from that December 2015 to July 2016 was when I probably had not necessarily the most fun, but I think it was for me, it was where I was able to make the most content, where I was the most consistent, where I had a lot of fun with live streams, because obviously at that point I was living in my parents', no responsibilities outside of work, and there was a pretty strong community at that point being built up. But I think as soon as I started to move to other things, it kind of dropped off. If I'd have stuck to the Star Wars stuff, which again was quite difficult because at that point there wasn't much, we hadn't even gotten to Rogue One at that point, and I wanted to keep making videos, so I kind of diverted away into other things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But if I'd have done it like this, where I had a channel completely dedicated to Star Wars, things might have been different, but that's part of the fun, part of the experience. And now obviously we have this channel, and I'm enjoying this far more, doing this kind of content, because I can just spend my time focused on doing a video a week, which I can put more effort into. It's pretty good. Fitting that the final reaction on your OG channel was the Bad Batch finale when Star Wars animation started it all. Yeah, again, finishing it out with the Bad Batch, the end of season 3, and the last episode of that show was pretty fitting, because I thought, it's a hell of a way to go out. I started with the Clone Wars. Technically, the Clone Wars era ended with the Bad Batch, finishing. I was just very disappointed with that season, unfortunately. First 2 seasons were absolutely brilliant. Season 3 was just a little bit disappointing for me, so it was a bit of a shame, but still, as you say, it was very fitting. That's how we ended up. And then obviously transitioned over to this channel, where I'm trying to think of Andor is a show, and Tales of the Underground is one that we've reacted to. Hey Thundertron, how are you doing? But again, that's what I mean, is that like the amount of Star Wars content, and the reason why I've titled this video Star Wars is Boring is because it kind of is at the moment. Like, there's not a lot going on. There's no drama, no rumours, there's nothing coming up about the new films or the new series. There's only really Ahsoka in the pipeline other than the Mandalorian film. What was I disappointed by? The first 4 episodes were great. I felt like, they really kind of carried on a good theme of the stories. I think after episode 4, it just started to fall apart in terms of the consistency. And here's Zuko. You okay, buddy? Bye, buddy. For me, the consistency wasn't as good in terms of... Yeah, I just found that they moved away from some of the stuff in season 1 and 2 that made it really interesting. I felt like bringing Asajj Ventress into it was just trailer bait. She really didn't do anything. It felt like they ran out of ideas. It felt like, they had a plan for the first 2 seasons, and they just kind of never evolved on it, and they just dragged it out. And like, for example, killing Tech was something I didn't like. You finally give Tech some character development. You give him a potential relationship, and I'm like, you've just then gone and killed him off. And I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. I've been waiting for a long time for Tech to get some, spotlight. And I really like the way they positioned his character and the differences about his character, trying to reflect on, like, how people learn and speak and communicate differently. It was kind of like an allegory for people with, like, autism and stuff like that. So I was kind of enjoying how they were going with him on that front. And then they just kind of threw it all away. And then it was just very messy towards the end of the season. It just felt like they were repeating the story over and over. It's like, Omega's been captured, now they've rescued her. Then she gets captured again, now they've got to rescue her again. And it's like, oh, and Echo didn't have a lot of involvement either, so I was disappointed in that. I wanted to see more Echo. And we didn't find out what happened to Cody, and it's like, there's been no indication that they're planning on taking on those stories. Like, is Cody ever going to pop up again? Who knows? Are they ever going to tell the story of how Rex, Wolf, and Gregor, go from the Rebels days to the Clone Wars days? Like, there's a big chunk of time between there. They might touch on it in the future, but it's like, at the moment, it doesn't feel like they want to go down that route. I mean, again, we've got the Maul series, which is coming next year, which, should be good. I'm looking forward to that. I'd just like to see them try and do something a bit different, It's like, they just seem to, like, gravitate to a character, and this is like, I don't know if it's Filoni who decides this, but there's a character that they, like, gravitate towards, so Ahsoka being the main one, and they just fucking run the shit out of that character. Like, they're involved in almost everything, and you become a little bit sick of it. And, I think Maul is potentially going to go that way, because he's been involved in a lot over the last 10 years, and don't get me wrong, it's like, it's good to have some expanded stories for the characters that, were originally killed off. But, because Maul, if it wasn't for the likes of Filoni in the Clone Wars, then Maul would never have gotten anything beyond, the Phantom Menace. I know George planned on having him be the main villain for the trilogy that he wants to do, but let's face it, George Lucas was never doing a sequel trilogy. That's why... What partly annoys me about the people who sit there and say, oh, Disney isn't canon, or, Disney sucks and George should have done his films. George Lucas was never going to do a trilogy. He was never going to make another Star Wars film, because he'd had such a bad experience with the prequels and gotten so much flack for the prequels. And again, some of it was deserved. The prequels weren't great. Again, I think there's a lot of revisionist history about the prequels. They got treated like the sequels at the time. And George just wasn't going to do it. Like, if he hadn't sold it, he would have held on to it until he died. It would have passed on to someone else. They probably would have sold it, and then we'd have been back to square one, where it would have been too late to have any of the original characters for the sequels. So it went the way that, not necessarily the best way, but the one of the few ways it could have gone. Bad Batch's show is conflicting. I quite enjoyed it, but characters like Tech and especially Echo got heavily sidelined to the point of why bother having them join the Bad Batch if he does nothing? Yeah. And then season 3, Tech finally gets some character development. He finally gets the spotlight, and then you kill him. Whereas Echo, it's like, okay, you kind of send him off with Rex, and like if they'd have run a show at the same time, a concurrent show that showed you the adventures of Rex or an Echo, or even announced it as like the show after, I could have accepted that as being like, yeah, cool, you know. It's like, fine. If you don't like Star Wars, we have a name for you. Trekkie. I am a Trekkie as well. I'm as big a Star Trek fan as I am a Star Wars fan. But I don't typically enjoy a whole deal of new Trek. I hate Discovery. I didn't mind too much the Kelvin films. Like, yeah, they were obviously built for a different audience, and you kind of accept that. You could accept it as like a different timeline. Picard season 1 and 2 I hated. Season 3 was pretty good. It had its faults, but it was pretty good, all things considered. Strange New Worlds, season 1 and 2 I enjoyed. Season 3 I'm really struggling with. And I am not looking forward to this Star Trek Academy show. But yeah, I'm a huge Trekkie. Love The Next Generation, love Deep Space Nine, love Voyager. Never watched Enterprise. I just never really... I think because that was a point in time, 2002 to 2005, where I was kind of in my mid-teenage years and I was out doing things. It's like with wrestling. I watched wrestling a lot up until 2002 and I just stopped for a while because I was getting older, I guess. And teenage me was like, I don't want to watch that stuff anymore. But, you know. So I am a proud Trekkie. As proud as I am of being a Star Wars fan, but again, it's not like it's like the same with Star Wars. I don't, and I'll always be upfront with my opinions. I don't like everything. Just because I'm a big fan doesn't mean that, you know, I'm gonna say, yeah, everything's great, everything's brilliant, so we should all sit there and agree that nothing is bad. You know, bad products exist even in, you know, the things that you love. The ending of The Bad Batch is in an awkward place because I want them to move on from the Clone Wars, but there's a visible gap in the story of Rex and Echo in between Rebels, but I don't want another clone show. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the clones have been so overdone. A live-action clone show would be interesting, but that is such a logistical nightmare because obviously you've got Tamora Morrison, who is not getting any younger, is more than willing, I'm sure, to play the part of any clones. But then you've got to remember, like, he'd have to play the part of all the clones. And that's going to be an expensive show. So, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing a live-action version of the clones at some point. Even if it was, like, a mini-series, like a 6-episode mini-series or something. To show you, like, the clones 10 years after Order 66, you know, around the time of Kenobi, maybe, because then you've got Tamora being around about the right age, and you know, it's something different, so it would feel fresh and new, and you know, it means more Tamora Morrison, and I think everyone more or less wants more Tamora Morrison because he's such a cool guy. Or, you know, just give us a second Boba season. Just no fucking mod bikers or anything like that, you know. And no none of this redemption shit, you know. Just let him be morally grey. He doesn't have to be outright bad. He doesn't have to be evil. Just let him be Boba Fett. Boba Fett, he just cares about himself. Doesn't necessarily want to hurt people, but he will if it means that he'll get ahead. You know, not everyone needs to have a redemption. Not everyone needs to become good. You know? Sometimes it's nice just to see people just be who they are. I myself tend to focus and talk about the positives like Andor and books I acknowledge not all of Star Wars is good. Yeah, I tend to focus on the good because the weight and the heaviness of those who focus on the bad is so extreme. Like, online, there is a heavy bias towards negativity, because that's what gets views and that's what pays money. So I always try and stick towards the positive side when it comes to like the majority of my content. But in like a personal setting like this, I'll happily, give negative thoughts and give criticisms. And, when I'm watching and reviewing shows live, I'll also do the same. But if I'm going to reflect back on something, I'll try as best as possible to be objectively fair. I've made videos that have been negative, like the First Order Resistance War video, which I still maintain was a stupid thing. But then, for every one of those videos, I'll make 5 videos talking about something good, or something neutral, at the very least. Talking about characters and their potential, and where I kind of see them going in the future. And, it's not always necessarily gonna, capture viewers, because a lot of people aren't really interested in those kinds of videos. But I don't want to be a kind of clickbait merchant, I suppose you might call them, or rage bait might be a better way of describing it, because that's really what they are. The rage baiters. And you can see them becoming desperate. It's quite funny to see now how, for a number of reasons, I think because people are getting a bit tired and because there's not a lot going on in the Star Wars world, they grip to any bit of negativity possible to try and pump their audience. And again, it's quite funny to see, because obviously they depend. The great thing about this channel is that I don't depend on it for an income. Like, it's not my job. It's a hobby. I have a job that pays pretty decently. I'm, comfortable. Obviously, I'd like to have more time. I'd like for this to be a job, because then, you could put every effort into it. But I don't have to panic if a video doesn't perform well. I don't have to panic if, like, the YouTube revenue is down this month or views are down, because it doesn't matter to me. It's like, but I do find it so funny looking at other channels and seeing them, having to scrape the bottom of the barrel to try and like force drama or talk about situations that aren't really controversial, but they try and make them controversial just in the hopes of getting clicks. I think a good example is, I'm not going to name the name of the channel, but you'll know who it is. But a very notorious channel who is struggling for views and subscribers compared to previous years, tried to force drama with Matt Walsh, the conservative right-wing online commentator. I think would probably be the best description, and that failed miserably. And it's like, come on, you're just smelling of desperation here. And anytime there's a little bit of drama news that they can, attach to, then they will. It's quite funny. So that's why I'm kind of really relaxed about everything. I just wish there was more to talk about right now. I want a bit of news about Ahsoka Season 2. I want a bit of news about The Mandalorian. When are they going to bring out a teaser trailer? I mean, we're less than a year to release, and we've not had a public teaser. There was obviously one at Celebration a few months ago, which immediately leaked, which as with many things. But you would think that with us getting to sort of, how long is it now? 9 months to the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. You'd think that there'd be something out there at this point. Not necessarily a full-blown trailer, but like a teaser, some news. And there's nothing. Likewise, nothing for Ahsoka Season 2. Nothing really about the Maul show. And we don't know. Like, we're getting tidbits of casting information for the Starfighter movie. The rumours are Matt Smith is going to be in that, which would be interesting. I still have a theory that Matt Smith... I think that whole show is going to revolve around just the Republic. So the villain in that show is probably going to be a Republic figure. And it's going to be like, this is why the Resistance had to break away, because the Republic Navy was so, like, corrupt or just inefficient. So Ryan Gosling's character is probably going to be like a hotshot pilot, because I think it's in the New Republic era, isn't it? He's going to be like a hotshot pilot who, is getting orders from this stiff commander and just doesn't agree with it, and there's going to be a situation that his gut tells him to go one way, the commander wants him to go the other. Kind of like a little bit like a Civil War situation, a Marvel Civil War, just without the Avengers. But that kind of moral tie between, like, oh, well, they're loyal to the Republic, but the Republic are telling them to do something they don't think is right, so they're going to have to split and try and get around it. It's a bit of a cliched story, but that's what I think it's going to be. That's probably the film I'm most excited about. It's like, yeah, sure, I want to see the Mandalorian film, but again, do I have complete and utter faith that is going to be good and there's going to be a good payoff? Because again, for all we know, this could be the last Mandalorian content we get. It's been like 6 years now since the Mandalorian debuted on our screens, and how much more can they get out of him as is? I still ascertain that the end of season 2 is the best place to leave it off. Maybe have him show up a little bit in the future, but in terms of his own shows, 2 seasons was great. Like Andor, get in, do it well, get out. I thought Starfighter was post Troz. Maybe. Let's have a look. Star Wars Starfighter. Oh, that's the game. So let's have a look. May include characters from the sequel trilogy. Yeah, take place 5 to 6 years after the events of Star Wars Episode 9. Rise. Okay, so it could still be the same premise, but this is why this film's going to be quite important, because this is going to set up the post New Republic world. So it's going to be quite important, and whether they decide to go back to a Republic type government, or, as I predicted many moons ago, there's going to be a kind of fractured galaxy with many different factions. Who knows? But with it being Starfighter and them everything seems to be taken on the shape of an X-wing, that kind of suggests there's going to be some type of Republic government. So it could still be the same case. Star Wars is a bit of a drought right now regarding film and TV news. I've seen both leaked trailers for Maul and Mandalorian and Grogu, but other than that, there isn't much yet. And they were brought out, 4 months ago? It's been forever. Did you play Jedi Survivor on your channel or stream? Because I couldn't find it, like your Fallen Order playthrough. I think at that point, I was in between channels, so I was kind of like uncertain as to whether I wanted to carry on with YouTube, and so I just kind of played it on my own time. I think anyway. I can't remember making videos for it. But if the third one, well, I say when the third one comes out, I will. I'll probably stream it. I streamed Outlaws, and what was the other one? Was there another one that I streamed? Might have been. Let's go back on my live stream. So Outlaws, which was, my God, was that a year ago? That's insane. Outlaws was a year ago. I think that was the only game that I've streamed here so far. Because I think I'm pretty certain that Jedi Survivor was before this channel was made. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'll definitely I'll definitely consider streaming the next one. Which I suppose is a bit of a shame because I really liked Survivor. Probably would have made for a good little streaming series. Certainly compared to Outlaws. Outlaws wasn't terrible, I didn't think, but it was not worthy of a second playthrough. Like, it was literally, okay, that was interesting. What's next? You know, and it was a game that clearly had a few bugs in it. It just felt repetitive by the end. You know, I'm just trying to tally up how many hours I got out of that. I mean, to be fair, I got it on the rather than buying the game, I got it on the EA access. So it was literally like what, $15. Completed the game in a month, and I'm looking at this now. So it's like 3, 5.5, 7.5, 10.5, 12, 15, 19, 21, 23, 26, 27, 31. I got like 35 hours out of that game, which is pretty good. Again, I wouldn't want to do it again. No interest in going back and trying to play that. Because again, it felt false to me. Yeah, it was overhated, without doubt. Absolutely overhated. But to me, it was kind of like, I look back and I think to myself, a game that was touted as being very GTA-like, with, you know, the star system, and being able to align with different syndicates. That syndicate system didn't have enough consequences for me. It's like, oh, it just makes it harder to get into their areas, but you don't always need to be there. It's like, it's if you want to collect all the collectibles. It's like, for me, that doesn't... I want a story where my choices matter. Like, if I decide to go with the Huts, and I turn against Crimson Dawn, I want the story to be affected by that. Not just, oh, you can't come in here, you're going to have to sneak in. That's kind of cheap and lazy. And the same with, you know, the star system. It's like the level, the top level where the Death Troopers came in made no sense to me. You had to go to them. Rather than the Death Troopers like following you around, landing on top of you, they'd land somewhere in the distance and you would have to go and fight them. Like, you'd have to go to them. Well, that doesn't make sense. You know? So I was a little disappointed by that. But you're right, it was overhated. I haven't seen it. I haven't used its DLC, but it was fun for that one playthrough. But I've got no interest in ever going back to it. I know there's a book coming out post-TROS called The Last Order, focusing on Finn and Janna, but Starfighter is the most important post-TROS film, other than the Rey film. Yeah, but obviously Starfighter is going to be the one coming out first, and I'm guessing that they're giving Sean Levy... I'd hope they're giving him a base outline of what they want the post-TROS world to look like, rather than it being like a Rian Johnson, you make up whatever you want, or, you know, I suppose I should say a J.J. Abrams, you make up whatever you want. Oh, you don't want it to be a republic anymore? Fine, you go for it. They really should have been like, no, we need there to be a republic. We need the stories to be smaller scale. So hopefully they're doing that for the Starfighter film. You've 100% Outlaws achievements, including its DLCs, but haven't touched it since. Well, that's pretty impressive. I don't know what the achievements are actually like, to be fair. Hey Simon, are you ever going to come back to your main channel and react to other things besides Star Wars again and miss that lot? Unfortunately, no. It was fun, and, you know, it kept me busy, but it was a lot of work, a lot of time, and again, it started to flounder for me. The rewards were not really worth it. You know, I lost my passion for it. Whereas doing things this way, like, you know, focusing on Star Wars, doing 1 to 2 videos a week, is so much more rewarding personally for me, because I've got so much more interest. I always felt bad, like, when I'd be watching a show and I just could tell I wasn't really into it, because I've got a very specific taste in TV, and a lot of the stuff, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely grateful for doing it, because I discovered a lot of shows that I mightn't have if I decided not to start. I mean, to be fair, I actually need to go and watch the last season of Black Sails, because Black Sails is a show that I got like almost all the way through season 3 and just stopped. So I actually, kind of reminded me that I do need to go back and start finish that last season, because that was a really good show. And to an extent, Battlestar Galactica. I need to go and finish that show, but I'm not as desperate to go and finish that up. But no, the old channel is dead. This is going to be the only stuff that I do, and I'm only going to be sticking to Star Wars. That Syndicate system was more tedious than interactive. The lowest level sent a team to kill you, which was more annoying and so again, it's like, at least in GTA, if you get a level 3 and above and they start sending like helicopters after you, it's dangerous, because it's hard to navigate, it's hard to escape, and especially if you hit that top level, it's like, yeah, you're fucked, unless you are like completely sort of stacked to the gills with weapons. You got the army coming after you. But in Outlaws, it's like, oh, we'll just send a squad of death troopers to stand around and hope that you go to them. It didn't make sense to me. Will you review the Rebuild the Galaxy sequel? Maybe. I did see that there was a trailer for it recently. I haven't actually seen the trailer. I enjoyed the first one. I can't remember if I talked about the first one or not. Again, I don't know the timeline on it as to whether it came out before the channel existed or if it was something I just... I think I did talk about it, because I think I spoke about how it was actually really good. Yes, I did review it. It was about a year ago now. And yeah, I said it was pretty good, so I'll probably watch the sequel. Not normally, I'll be honest, I'm not normally a big fan of the Lego stuff. I don't mind something that's not... Sorry, I've got to... This is the thing, is after having had the stomach surgery, the weight loss surgery, any kind of a gassy drink, just... It's not good in terms of the gas, obviously. But yeah, no, I'm not normally a huge fan of the Lego stuff, because I don't mind a little bit of silliness where it's like completely over the top. I'm a bit like, I just want something a bit serious. But no, I'll probably watch it and give it a little review. I think that should be pretty good. Yeah, I'm just looking back at that time period now. It was a year ago since The Acolyte. Just loads of little things that, you just don't think about when you've actually made these videos. It's kind of mad. Hey man, I've not seen one of your lives in so long. How is weight loss going from the surgery? Hey, Specky Harry, what a name. I'm kind of at the moment, I am plateaued, but I've just gotten myself a treadmill. So I'm going to be really ramping up don't get me wrong, I'm still like 130 pounds down from the surgery. So I'm still at like the lowest I've been in 15 years, almost 20 years. So I'm pretty happy with where I am. It's like the main goal was to not put the weight back on, and I haven't. Like, I've fluctuated sort of between around about 300 pounds and 310 pounds for like the last 6 months. But I kind of expected that, because things have been so busy. I've not really had the desire to try and like cut down and diet, and it's like I'll just stick to what I'm doing, which is comfortable. But now I've got myself a treadmill, so I'm going to be working out more regularly. So I'm hoping to drop another 50 pounds before Christmas. But again, that's the plan. But the thing is, the addiction never goes away. It's like, even though I don't have the physical capacity to eat food, my brain still kind of craves it, even if I'm not hungry. So it's still difficult. It's like I say, the surgery isn't a cheat. It's definitely not. But like I say, you see so many people who've had the surgery pile the weight back on. And for me, that's the important thing, is I've not done that, which is the most important thing. I like to say, I think that if I was to, for the rest of my life, kind of be around about the 280 pound mark, I'd kind of accept that. Because it's like, for so long, I was at like 380, 400 pounds plus. I was like, you know what, I'd have killed to have been 150 pounds lighter. So I'll take it, I just want to I just want to kind of get on with my life, you know. I've got a lot of things going for me really well. My job's going really well. I own this flat now. I'm 37, so I'm still relatively young. It's just really my romantic life that I need to sort out now, and that's it. That's the final piece of the puzzle. But again, I'm in no rush. Only thing that really changed story-wise is the faction that helped you at the very final mission. But that's it. But again, for such a small payoff, was it really worth having that whole system in place and bigging it up? So, love you doing more videos of the Legacy of Vader comic. It's a really great series. Yes, I do hopefully plan on doing it. You know, obviously a lot of the Dr. Aphra stuff is I really enjoy that. 000 is a great character. You know, and I think that Dr. Aphra could well be brought into to live action at some point in the future. Certainly would hope so. I think that's a really, really good series to kind of focus on. But we'll just have to wait and see. They're still focusing on the Kylo Ren comics at the moment, aren't they? Which I don't know if the new ones come out yet. Have I seen the Starfield Genesis mod where it revamps the whole game into Star Wars? I have. I've not played it. To be honest, I've never played Starfield. But I have seen the mod. And it looks really impressive. Like, I will be forever impressed by people who take an existing video game that is obviously quite complex and large and manage to turn it into something different entirely. That it's massively impressive. And you know, they're not getting paid for it. They're just doing it because they recognise that this game's probably got really good mechanics. How awesome would it be if there was a Star Wars version of this and they've just gone and changed that into it? Speaking of Star Wars games, I know that we do have the Star Wars game coming up that is a bit like XCOM. Let me have a look and see. Is it no, not Eclipse? Zero Company. So yeah, Star Wars Zero Company. Which again, it's one of those, it's a bit like Eclipse. It's like, we've not really heard much about it since it was announced. But this is one I'm actually really looking forward to because I love the kind of XCOM style games where it's like turn-based tactics. I remember actually on the old channel playing XCOM and naming characters after the viewers, and it would be a tragedy when a character would die. It was a really good way of just like interacting. So that's coming out soon. I'm sure that we've got a strategy game as well, very similar to Empire at War. Let me have a look. I'm sure that was like announced to be in development. Obviously not like necessarily Empire at War 2. But there is an RTS game. So RTS game. But I don't know if they've announced it just yet. I think it was Respawn, wasn't it? Yeah. Although I'm hoping that's not the one that... Let's have a look at 0 Hour. Bit Reactor. Ooh, this might be the same one. Yeah, it could be, because Bit Reactor, I think, were the ones developing it, so this might be it. So I might not get my sequel to Empire at War that I wanted. That's just like, you're just printing money at that point if you make that game. The protocol droids and security guards walk so strange. I suppose there's some things that just can't recode without causing major issues, I guess. So reskinning things is the easiest way to do it. And, you know, again, not everything is going to fit perfectly. But still, for what they did, it's brilliant. Oh yeah, Zero Company, the KOTOR remake, which, do we know that that's still going to get done? It's been forever and a day now since they announced that. And again, same with Eclipse. They're like two games that are like up in the ether. It's like announced. Eclipse was like 5 years ago now, and there's been nothing on it. And then the third Jedi one, which is definitely going to happen. It's always going to be in the background, isn't it? Until they're ready to release a trailer, then you know that's just going to be worked away. And those types of games do take a lot of work. You know, for the, I mean, that was the thing that surprised me about Survivor, was just how big the game was and how much content there was in it. And that's why it takes so long to make. XCOM is a great series, and I'm curious to see how it's handled in Zero Company. I just hope Zero Company isn't a cheap knockoff, like done bare bones. It's like I really want a complicated and long campaign, with really good mechanics that, you know, evolve really kind of naturally, and keep the game interesting, because that for me is like what XCOM does so well is scale. But it's just like, and again, we want to talk about mods. The main game's campaign, XCOM 2, was a bit too short for my liking, so Long War, which was the mod that extended it and added in some new stuff, was brilliant because you get extra missions, you know, and it's a challenge as well. What are your thoughts on Star Wars Squadrons? Because I remember pre-ordering it and it being really exciting and just didn't enjoy it. I loved it. Really did. Like, again, one of my favourite games in my childhood being TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. They literally just made a modern version of that. And I really enjoyed... I mean, obviously, it was a shame that it was a shorter game and that it didn't really take off. You know, it was supposed to be a multiplayer game for the most part, and it just never really got the player base that it deserved. And, you know, now it's kind of dead. You know, and again, I always say to people, look, if you're looking for a really good Star Wars game to pick up on the sales, it usually goes on sale for like $5. It's worth it, even though the campaign isn't super long. It's a really good campaign. The fact that you can play as the Empire, as the bad guys, is cool. It's not like this Battlefront 2 where you play as the bad guys for 2 missions and then you turn. You actually get to play as the bad guys for like the majority of the campaign, and they are the bad guys, like, you know. And it's an interesting look into that kind of sort of Battle of Jakku era. And, you know, the gameplay is really good. It's just, again, like I say, it's a shame that the multiplayer is kind of dead, because it is a really, really fun game for those who enjoy that kind of space combat stuff. Still hoping for my High Republic game, if only Eclipse wasn't under Quantic Dream. Yeah, obviously the High Republic stuff has been really good. I've really enjoyed the novels. I think Acolyte, for no matter what you think of it, has probably put a bit of a doubt in the mind of Disney about going forward with anything from that era outside of like comics and novels. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. I did like the details they put in the cockpits of all the systems, like targeting other random buttons. Yeah, what I really liked is the fact that they kind of just took the mechanics from the TIE Fighter and X-Wing games, like, you know, switching power between engines, shields, and guns, and they just literally stuck it into that game. So there was a direct kind of link to it. I really, really liked it. And I never got to play it in VR, but I can imagine that game in VR was amazing. You know, obviously I don't have a computer powerful enough to do proper VR, and I didn't have enough money at the time to purchase a VR rig. But I wish I could go back, give myself some money, and just say, look, just buy a rig, buy the VR, and enjoy that game for as long as you can in VR, because that would be amazing. I remember playing the Rogue One expansion VR game for Battlefront on the PlayStation, and that was amazing. And that was 10 years ago now. Can you imagine what it'd be like now? I replay Squadrons campaign quite a bit. It's very fun and very immersive. A-Wing is my beloved. Yeah, I love the TIE Interceptor. I mean, again, it was always difficult on the Empire side because they had no fucking shields. So you had to make up for it with speed. But for me, it was X-Wing and TIE Interceptor were the two ones for me. I'd love a Squadron sequel that features the Battle of Jakku. Yeah, that would be really cool. Or again, even take it into the sort of sequel era. Or I suppose you know, you'd be doing what Battlefront 2 did at that point, where you could have all eras. The VR mode was disappointing because you could not use controllers. You had to do a keyboard and gamepad. Oh. That's a bit odd. I suppose, was Squadrons on any console? Or was it just Steam? Let's have a look. Because if that was the case, no, it was on PlayStation and Xbox. So I'm guessing, was it just on the PC version that you couldn't use the controllers? Because again, that's got to be the majority. I mean, for me, as a young kid, the question is always what got you into Star Wars? And some people, it might be the story of Luke, the young, kind of Jedi going off on an adventure. It might have been Han Solo, the kind of really interesting rogue. But for me, it was always the space battles. The space battles were what got me into Star Wars. And so that's something that I've always loved. I've always wanted to, and that's why I think I loved Empire at War so much, is because I love long ship combat in space. Give me control of a Star Destroyer and let me go at a Rebel fleet and I'm happy. You've got Squadrons on the Xbox. So on Xbox, could you do the VR with the controller? But yeah, it's dead. That is such a shame. And I know that people have tried to, I know like Eckhart's Ladder has tried to kind of revive it. They tried to do some tournaments and it just didn't really work out. Oh, that was a drop thing. But it's I think because it got so overlooked, it was quite cheap when it came out, but it didn't get a hell of a lot of publicity because it kind of came out all of a sudden. It was like, boom, here's a trailer. Next month this is coming out. It is going to be a short game, and I think people might have been put off by the price tag because they must have thought, oh, well, this game is going to be very long. But it was actually really, 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 really good. Just the headset to look around and that. VR is on the PlayStation, not Xbox, unfortunately. Oh, okay. I'm assuming you could do it on the PC, though, if you had the associated rig. Because, yeah, again, I don't think Xbox has VR, does it? Which you would have assumed that Xbox would have gotten onto that by now, because VR is not... It wasn't necessarily a phase like it was back in like the 90s. I remember VR in the 90s being nothing like what it is now, and it died out very quickly. And I suppose like 10 years ago when PlayStation VR came out, there was more excitement and more push around that. Now VR is kind of like an add-on that people don't necessarily talk about as much. But yeah, I love a horror game where you're in a Star Destroyer with no power and it's been overrun by Project Blackwing. I think is there a novel called like Star Wars Death Troopers? Something similar like that. But yeah, I've always said like not even like just a game where you're being hunted by a Sith, an alien isolation style game where you are like a Republic soldier, and you're being hunted down by this Sith or this Dark Jedi. They could work really well, because let's face it, like of a xenomorph, an average person has got no chance other than to hide and be clever. So, that's what you'd have to depend upon. But yeah, I think Star Wars and horror could be a genre that gets combined, not necessarily on screen, but a game for sure. Squadrons dropped that amazing CG cinematic called Hunted, which was incredible, but I do remember it appearing and releasing very suddenly. Yeah, I love that. And again, it plays at the start of the game as well, and it is kind of like the opening cinematic, and it was fantastic, and that's what drew me in straight away. And they have more of those incredible cinematics all the way through the game, and it's just like, oh well, no one wants to play it now. So, but right, well, we've hit around about an hour, and I'm getting a little tired, so I'm probably going to call it a night. But again, thank you all for showing up to this impromptu short stream. I do hope that you all enjoy your evenings wherever you are. I would like to say that we'll do this again sometime, but I don't know. Certainly not next weekend. I'm away next weekend. But again, thank you all for just sticking around and supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. But there'll be more videos coming out next week and the week after and the week after that. So we'll definitely keep at it. And there will be the surprise stream every now and then. So yeah, thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a lovely evening.